What is up, Watch fam? Happy Tuesday and welcome to In the Metal. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and today I'm going to walk you through the 6 new additions to the vintage watch shop at theoandharris.com. So there is no wristwatch check because I have so many other things to play with, but let's get into number 1. So let's start off with this vintage Omega. As soon as you look at it, the first thing you notice are these bright, broad, these wide gold Dauphine hands. They actually, wow, they reflect incredibly well in the light, as I'm getting to see that right now. They're complemented by matching gold hour markers, as well as the Explorer dial, 12, 3, 6, and 9. It's an incredibly simple watch, yet it's so well executed. It's without much text, just Omega, some minute track, and then Swiss made. But that's exactly what I'm looking for when I'm trying to buy a vintage Omega Seamaster, a well-preserved version of a well-executed simple watch. So this one is a home run to me. Okay, so next we're jumping into vintage Tudor. It's a reference 7965. It's an oyster print, a no-date model with an incredibly clean dial that almost has a very, in certain light, a circular graining to it. It's really beautiful. Front and center, we have these beautiful alpha hands, something that I don't see very often at all. I'm a hands fanatic. When it comes to vintage or modern, I love to see when a watch features interesting hands. To me, they represent a great opportunity for an otherwise simplistic watch to have some flair. And this vintage Tudor, which dates to 1965, does that, incredibly well. Okay, now we move on to another vintage Omega. In the reference 166 family, it's an Omega Geneve. It dates to 1968, and this to me is a perfect example of a watch that's just executed in total minimalist style, which is so classic for late 60s, even into early 70s Omega. It's very cool in aesthetic. It's not warmed up by any gold indices, and I think we complemented it really well with this plum leather strap. It's powered by the automatic winding caliber 563, which, although you guys definitely know that I'm a fan of manually winding my watches in the morning, there's something still obviously very utilitarian about not having to. Next, we have an extremely rare dive watch, something that most people don't even realize is special, but it really is. It's an Aquastar Geneve, originally under the label Jean Richard, and we really do not find many variations of them. This example features its original steel bezel, which has been preserved incredibly. There's a small crack by 30, but overall, it's an immaculate example. An original dial and hands. When it comes to tool watches, to me, what I really look for is a kind of feeling of raw steel. It gives off a utilitarian feel, but ultimately it just reminds me that this example of this watch is true to its form. And to me, the fact that it's retained its original crown is quite impressive. I mean, this is something that probably should have taken a beating, but it didn't, so we're very lucky for that. Moving on, we have a beautiful Universal Geneve. It dates to 1946 on the caseback inscription, which I think is so interesting. And actually, it's really well printed. It's got a really beautiful design. Its dial is its original radium, which is only accented by the beautiful, almost like tiger, not quite stardust patina going on here. And to me, what brings it all home is this raw steel case. I mean, it seems to have been never polished, and if so, very lightly. It still has that original, very textural finishing, and I'm blown away by this watch. It comes in at 34 millimeters, which doesn't sound like it's too big, but to me, this watch couldn't possibly wear better. And of course, for the grand finale, one of my favorite watches of all time, a vintage Rolex Datejust, reference 1601, and I'll walk you right through it. Its steel case is quite strong. Of course, it features its original crown, its white gold bezel, which under the right lighting has an oddly warm kind of feel. Some people even occasionally mistake it for yellow gold, which it absolutely is not. To me, what's so interesting about this example is its dial configuration. Although most people probably wouldn't notice that it is different, that it's not quite run-of-the-mill, naturally I do. If you look throughout the watch, it's actually without luminous material, but rather, if you look at the original stick hands as well as the markers, they're accented by black. Although no one's quite sure what functional purpose this did serve, it's just another one of those little nuances that vintage Rolex admirers like myself do just go nuts for. So that's it. These are this week's new additions to the watch shop at theoandharris.com. Two Omegas, a Universal Geneve, a Tudor from 1965, an Aquastar, and a Rolex HS reference 1601. I couldn't be more proud to have personally sourced these watches. It really was a pleasure, just as it will be a pleasure to answer your emails and ship them off to their new geeky homes.